Welcome in, everybody. This is your self-care staffing for Friday, July 10th, 2020. I am Lou Pascal. I'm the school social worker in the Manchester City Schools in Manchester, Tennessee. I'm here to remind you that you are your most important client. If you don't find a way to treat yourself that way, life will find a way to prompt you to do so, and it probably won't be pretty. It will not be a situation of your choosing. It usually is not when that happens. So for that sentence, you are your most important blank, just think of whatever a word applies to your situation. So if you are a teacher, school support personnel, administrator, social worker, school social worker, medical personnel, first responder, spiritual leader, any kind of helping professional, family member, just think of those roles and the word that would finish that sentence in the best way for you. So you are your most important blank. It could be you are your most important family member. Just whatever word applies to your situation that reminds you to put yourself at the top of your list. You are worthy of self-care even if no one else ever benefits. So today I want to do a self-care staffing pep talk. It's been a little while since I did one of those, and today's title is You Do You. So over the course of this series of videos, we've spent a lot of time trying to identify what self-care methods would be helpful in each person's individual situation. I strongly believe that self-care is individualized, and that what might be a method that nurtures me may not nurture you. And so I think you need to figure out what that is in your life and not just do the standard self-care recommendations that everyone gets, because they may not really make you feel replenished. So once a person has identified those methods that help him or her practice self-care, I think there can be a little bit of bashfulness around that. So I want to talk about that today. So it is okay not to share your self-care methods with anyone. It is okay for those practices to just be for you and part of your private life, and you don't have to talk to anyone about it if you would prefer not to talk about it. It is also okay for no one else to understand why those practices are important to you. You don't have to justify what you do. You don't have to justify why you do what you do for self-care. You don't have to justify that to anyone else. If what you're doing is not hurting anyone and it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, go for it. So the bottom line is, don't let anyone shame you for your self-care practices. And let's extend that attitude to other people. Let's not be shaming other people for their self-care practices. We don't have to understand it. It's not about us. It's not our life. So let's just all let each other be and let each other practice those things that are nurturing to each one of us without a lot of judgment. So self-care check-in questions for today. What do you need to do to feel more accepting of yourself and your self-care practices? Do you need to revise your self-talk? Do you need to find someone else or a group who is interested in whatever you do for self-care? So my answer to that is, for me, I think it is a self-talk issue. One of my top self-care practices is just organizing my life, organizing my office, organizing my home, organizing my calendar, organizing my email. I just like everything to be orderly. And if everything is very chaotic, then I do not always feel my best. So I most definitely feel calmer and more at peace when my house is in order. And so everybody is not going to feel like organizing her life is self-care, and that is okay. I used to not talk about how important organization was to me. I think because a lot of people feel like they are not organized. If I come through and say I'm very organized, and I could say it just like that, for whatever reason, in my head, it kind of always came off as a brag, and I did not intend it that way at all. If I said I have brown hair or I have brown eyes, that is not a brag. That is a description of who I am as a person. And so I have started to be able to talk more about organization and how it's important to me without feeling like it's a brag. I'm just describing who I am as a person. I'm very organized. That's not really has nothing to do with anybody else and whether they're organized or not. I'm just saying organization is important to me, and it's the way that I live my life. So like I said, I used to not talk about it a whole lot because I didn't want to feel like I was bragging, but now I just talk about it just as something that it just is. And I think that's really important, especially as women. I think that we need to find a way to talk about who we are, and just being able to say that, and just being able to put that out into the world, and not feeling like it's a brag, and just say it like a fact. So I think that has been a shift for me, is to not have that self-talk around if I'm talking about being organized, then I'm bragging. And then just being able to say that to people, I'm organized. People usually really like to hear it, just to be really honest, because people who aren't organized, some people who aren't organized embrace that about themselves, and that's fine. But some other people who are not organized are often looking for ways to be more organized, and tips, and how to get things more in order in their own lives. So sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's refreshing to other people to hear that someone is organized, because then they might want to talk about that and what are your tips and tricks for keeping everything in order. So that is my answer to those questions. So I talk about being organized as a way to tell people who I am, and as a way to embrace how I take care of myself. So here's the quote: "Everyone has a private life, the things they love and think that no one else could really understand." And that was by Jeannie Ray, and the book was called Eat Cake. It was a novel. Jeannie Ray is Ann Patchett's mother. So Ann Patchett, that owns Parnassus Bookstore in Nashville, and Ann Patchett, who is also a novelist, this Jeannie Ray is her mother, who is also a novelist. So also an author. So again, everyone has a private life, the things they love and think that no one else could really understand. So that's just an encouragement. If you need to keep your self-care methods just as part of your private life, that's what you need to do. And that's self-care also, to know when to talk about things and what things that you just want to sort of be just for you. The song for today that I want to leave with you is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. In part of the lyrics are, all that I want for you is to be satisfied. So you do you, find a way for you to be satisfied. That's what this song is about. Simple Man. I'm going to have a couple of videos for today because there were a couple that I kind of thought spoke to the point. The first one is a trailer for a movie called Moonrise Kingdom, and the director is Wes Anderson. And the reason that I think that this speaks to you do you is because Wes Anderson is definitely an example of you do you. You will see when you watch this trailer, if you are not aware of Wes Anderson, the look of his movies is like nothing else that I've ever seen. I don't think anyone makes movies like Wes Anderson, and I really enjoy them. They are very visually pleasing and detailed, and So I'm really glad that Wes Anderson is an embodiment of you do you, because I really enjoy his work. The other one that I want to leave with you is a very short, less than a minute video by Kim Kardashian about how to take a selfie. And the reason that I think this speaks to you do you is that people have very strong feelings about selfies. I personally like them. This is a perfect example of you do you. If you like selfies, take them. If you don't, take what you like and leave the rest. Also, let's just let everybody be. And if we know people that like to take selfies and we don't particularly care for them, that's about them. That's not about you. So I'm going to leave that video with you. Again, I'm not endorsing every single thing that every person that I ever mentioned in these videos has said or done. I'm just sharing very small pieces that I found helpful that these individuals have put out into the world. So, if you would like to be aware of when I post self-care content, please subscribe. In the description, you will find the things that I mentioned today. You will also find a link to a self-care menu that I put together. It has 100 ideas for self-care. It's a free download on my Teachers Pay Teacher store. You'll find the link to the menu and then the link to my Teachers Pay Teacher store, which also has a self-care plan. If you would like to have that, it's a plan and it has 3 journal prompts that go with it. So all of that will be in the description. And if all hearts and minds are clear, I will see you all back here next week.